All right. Good morning. It's Wednesday, middle of the week, end of the month almost. So, man, summer is like going, right? And a lot of us aren't too concerned about it. Normally, I'm like that. Let's let summer be all year, but it's been brutally hot, right? And man, we got a lot going on down in Florida, so we're praying for those guys. And that hurricane that's in the middle of the night really turned into a Category 4. And so, yeah, we're just praying for all of our friends and those that are down there that God would be gracious. And so, hope everything's good in your world. We trekked up to Holly Pond, which is a little bitty hamlet up north of us, about an hour away, and watched some football last night. So, feels like fall's beginning, and we won big, and it was fun. And so, we'll see how all that progresses through life, right? So, today we're jumping into the book of Luke, chapter 6. And we're working through the Lord's Sermon on the Mount. And he's really, at this stage, creating clear understanding of what it looks like to be kingdom people. And so, there's a lot of theology, a lot of school of thought that this really isn't for us. This was really just for the gospel-centered thing. We have a different way, and I would just beg to differ that this is what it looks like to be a part of the household of God, to be a part of the kingdom of heaven, which is here among us. It's a spiritual kingdom. There is going to come a real, true kingdom, literal kingdom, new heaven, new earth. It's what the scripture says. We believe that, and I believe that this life isn't all there is, that there's going to come a time in which we will live as God had intended for Adam to live, and it will be a paradise. It will be really a new kingdom, a new heaven, a new earth, vastly different. Believe all of that. And so what he's telling us now is, hey, we're going to go ahead and live as though we're citizens of this kingdom, right? And so he begins to speak about that. And right now he's speaking about the concept of love. And so we've seen this. After he explained who the blessed people were and who the non-blessed people were. So kingdom people are blessed people. I'm not saying the church people are blessed people. I'm not even saying that the religious are blessed people, or Christians are blessed people. Those who have been transferred from the kingdom of darkness to the kingdom of light, they are blessed people. They're humble, they're gentle, they're patient, they're forbearing. This is who we are, right? So that there is this poverty that we understand, that we have nothing to bring, simply to the cross we cling. We know we know that we have this craving to be right with God, to be holy like Him. That's something that happens internally in us, and so there's our clock is, and our alarm bells are heightened, and our conscience is heightened in that sense because the Spirit has illuminated it, and so we have this hunger for righteousness. We also mourn. We mourn at what sin has done in ourselves, in others, in the world, and we long for a time when all of that is rid. And so that's who we are. Everyone else is cursed. Everyone. No matter what God they serve, whatever it is, they're cursed. They're proud. Now, they may mask it in this, false humility, but they're proud. They're self-serving. They're harsh. They're impatient. They cast people away like refuge, right? And so our refuse, right? And so that's who they are. This results in a clear division. This is what Jesus is saying. Listen, and this is what's wrong with the American church. We've drifted so much like the world because we brought them into the church. And what happened was a little leaven leavens a whole lump. So now the church is poisoned, just like the nation of Israel, because they didn't drive out those who were worshiping other idols. And so this is what. Now that, I'm not being unloving. I'm not saying that we shouldn't reach the lost. That's the whole point of this. But you don't bring them into your culture and let in a way that poisons you. There's a purity about this. Come out from among them and be ye separate is a thing in the Bible. And so the clear division is that Genuine Christ followers, people of the kingdom, we love unconditionally, right? It's not self-serving. It's not you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's just we love. We're also free, right? I'm free. I'm not encumbered by my fleshly desire in that sense. I'm not encumbered by anything other than Jesus. I have everything I need in Him. So therefore, everything else is just useless to us. And so I'm free, whereas they are enslaved. I walk in light. I understand the truth of the gospel. I understand what God has done for me. I know who I am, and I know who He is, and I know what He's done for me. And so I walk in the light. I'm not in darkness. That's the uh, the religious. That's the Christian in name only. Whatever you want to call it. That's the world. And then I'm at peace. God is no longer. His wrath is no longer going to overshadow me and overcome me, but I stand under the blood of Christ that is my rock and my fortress. It causes the wrath of God to divert around me, right? Whereas the world, they're full of struggle, man. They're still trying to figure this thing out, right? This is the way it is. Listen, I don't love to get anything. I love because I have everything. Did you hear that? I don't love to get something in return. That's the way the world does. And if we're not careful, we drift into that. But that's a lesser person. What I have been freely given, love, lavished on me. This is what the scripture says. So I don't love to get anything from anybody. I love because I have everything. And I'm free now and unencumbered, and I can give it, right? The waters have been really muddied in our world, and that's to our shame. We have forgotten that the church of the living God, not the place you go to, but the universal people of God, right? He means for us to be purged and purified, right? And that's who we are. And so if you ever go down to like Mobile Bay and make the turn, you'll see what they call brackish water. That's where the bay water and the salt water of the Gulf Coast begin to mesh together. And it's just a barren wilderness in that sense, right? It's of little value. We call those estuaries, and there's certain things that grow there, but really the sea has its own life and it's life-giving. The bay has its own, but you bring those two things together and it's just this brackishness, right? They would determine in the scriptures lukewarmness, right? Those things don't mix. What happens if you bring the world and the Christ follower and try to mesh them together? You get lukewarmness, right? And so this is what he's speaking of. The world's love and the religious, their love is an exchange. Ours, not so much. I'm free to give. I don't need anything from you. But the world, oh, there's an exchange, right? Quid pro quo. That's the way the whole world loves. That's all that is. That means something for something, right? That's quid pro quo. I'm going to love you if you'll love me. I'm going to scratch your back if you'll scratch mine. I'll give you some stuff if you'll give me some stuff. But if you're just going to sit there and not give anything, well, then I don't feel loved and I'm gone, right? Why are the Christian divorces in this world at the same rate as the world? Because we bought into the world. We bought into the fact that, well, we should, if my wife doesn't make me feel loved, or if my husband doesn't make me feel loved, then I'm out of here, right? Well, you don't find that anywhere in Scripture. And that's just a harsh reality. The Christ followers' love is a reservoir. That's what I am, right? Available for the masses. This is what God has done to me. The love of God has been shed abroad in my heart through the Spirit that He deposited in me. I am a love machine, right? I am a reservoir of the love that God put in there. And then God teaches me how to love. That's God, theos didactos. God taught how to love. That's what Paul told the Thessalonian church. Hey, you have no need about this, for God Himself has taught you how to love. Well, where did that come from? The Spirit who lives within us. And so we come to this world now, having been picked up out of that miry clay and our feet set on solid ground. We have been washed and we have been cleaned and we have been remade and we have become a vessel of honor, and He has now poured His love in us. We now become not a slop jar in that sense, but a jar that holds life-giving water. And so when the wayward, when they come by, when the traveler comes by, they find not a slop jar sitting out there, but they find a jar that is filled with fresh living water. That's how we should see ourselves. This is what Jesus is speaking of here. So our attitude is different. Our attitude, we love. That's the attitude. Everything for us is about loving others. Our eyes are off ourselves. That's what sin did. Sin brought a reason why they were naked and not ashamed is because they were focused on each other. Without sin, that's the reality. Sin enters into the picture and it turns us inward. And we become selfish and we know our own nakedness. Why? Because we're looking at ourselves. No longer is about anybody else. And what was the result of that? They hid themselves, right? So we hide our flaws, and they were hurling excuses. When God was saying, "Hey, what happened?" It was the woman. What did the woman say? Man, it was the serpent. And everybody. So there's a hiding and hurling that's taking place in the world, but not for us. Not anymore. We've been reversed in that sense. We have the love of God that's been shed abroad in our heart, and so we freely love. Our attitude is that we love. My action is that I'm looking to do good to people. I'm not looking to see who I can leverage to get where I want to go. I'm just doing good because I'm free. I won the lottery. I'm just handing out goodness, right? This is what we do, and the words that come out of our mouth aren't those of cursing people and making people feel small and going, "I'm better than you," and all of that. The words that come out of our mouth are ones that bring life, right? Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, Paul says, but only what is good for a timely word, meeting the needs of those in front of us. That's who we are. We love like that. This isn't normal. This isn't normal stuff. You don't fake this. You can't fake this. This isn't worked up. It's impossible to love like that. Right? I mean, let's be honest. It's impossible to love like that as long as I'm continuing to try to gratify the flesh. But when I put that sucker to death, when I get a chokehold on my flesh and I say, "Not today. Today, I'm going to keep in step with the Spirit," man, we are vastly different people. It's the exclusive result of divine intervention in my life. My life has been turned upside down, and as a result, I see things completely different than the world. The world is upside down, man, and God is always turning it right side up. So the religious would say, love your neighbor, hate your enemy. That's exactly what the people on this hillside, the day Jesus is speaking this sermon, that was their overwhelming thought. That was the worldly intrusion into the Jewish culture that says you take care of your own. I love me, and I love mine, and I hate everybody. Right? And so this was their way. So when you and I love, we prove ourselves to be kids of the King, right? That's what we become. Why? Because we prove to be the sons of God. That's how the epistle speaks of it, right? That when we love others, we prove ourselves to be children of God. So this is what it is. Now, that's where we are in the middle of this deal. And so he says in verse 27, which we looked at yesterday, "But I say to you, love your enemies." Now, when he said that, they're all like, "What? The Pharisees are out there. They're the ones telling us to hate everybody, love the church. I mean, love the Jew, hate everybody else." He said, I'm telling you different. I'm telling you they got it wrong. This is an affront to every Pharisee, Sadducee, Sanhedrin group gathering scribe out there. He's saying they got it wrong. The Bible says, love your neighbor. That's why he asked the rich young. I mean the parable of the Samaritan. That was the whole point. The guy was like, "Who's my neighbor?" Because whoever's not my neighbor, I can hate. Jesus is going, the whole world is your neighbor. So guess who you have to love? The whole world, right? And so this is what he's saying. So he says, listen, I say you love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse to you. Now he says this, verse 29. And these are, man, crazy truth, right? Whoever hits you on the cheek, offer him the other also. What is that about, right? Turn the other cheek. We hear that all the time. Well, I'm going to turn one. I'll turn once, but after that, it's over. It's game over. That's just silliness that we don't understand what this is talking about. This is not talking about a man coming up to assault us. And they heard it in this context. They didn't hear, hey, if someone tries to rob you in the middle of the night, just let him, and they start beating on you, just let them beat you up. This is not anything about that. This has to do with their culture and what happened when someone slapped you. Slap you is not punching you. Slapping you is humiliating you. That's what he's saying. So he's saying, hey, listen, when the world humiliates you, okay, let them humiliate you all they want. You just be my servant. Do you understand this is what this means? It's so weird how Christians can take this and start going, well, what does it mean to turn the other cheek? And what about when I get robbed? What about when I get raped? What about, this is not that. You've had lazy pastors potentially who have taught you things. But if you understand what this was, you understood that when Jesus stood before Pilate and they slapped him because they thought that he was dishonoring to the ruler there, that was a slap of humiliation to knock you back down to where you belong. You're not at the same level of him. Get back where you belong. And so his point here is when you turn the other cheek, and he's saying offer him the other also, it's just be a bulldog with love. You don't let any, look, our love isn't turned on or off by what others do. It's not dictated by that. Oh, wow, you humiliated me, so I'm going to run over here. No, I'm going to stand there and I'm going to love you again. And you can humiliate me all you want. You can ridicule me all you want, right? It's just, that's what that is. That slap was a rebuke. It was a humiliating kind of a thing. That doesn't stop us, right? It just doesn't stop us. One of the other movies that we had seen a long time ago, Richard Wurmbrand, during the some of these persecutions that were taking place because they were Christians. They had gathered, they'd put all with tuberculosis in one room, and they just hoping they would just kill each other off, and they were singing. Made the all of them really angry, all of the evil people. So they brought him out. They would beat the bottoms of their feet until they just couldn't stand anymore, and they would beat them. And then they would put them back in that room. And on this particular deal, they were singing songs. They drag him out. They do all of that. They put him back in the place. He sits down on the bed where they are singing, and he says, now where were we? Right? This is what it means. We're just going to keep loving. We're going to love God. We're going to love others. We're just going to keep doing it. You can't stop us from loving people. This is the message that he's giving to us. And then he says this, give away your tunic, right? Whoever takes away your cloak, don't withhold your tunic from him either. Listen, man comes along. In those days, if I owed you a debt, you could take my cloak. Now, you had to give it back at the end of the day because it was also my blanket. And he's going, hey, listen, quit worrying about those provisions and quit worrying about that stuff. Listen, they were taking your dignity is what they were doing. I have his cloak. That's like putting a lien against a man's house and kicking him out, right? That's what this is. And he goes, listen, when they do that, let them have everything. You don't need anything. I am everything you need, Jesus is saying. And so it's like, look, I'm going to love you anyway, right? Take advantage of me. Take me to court. Do whatever it is that you want to do. You're not going to make me hate you. You can't make me mad. I choose to be mad. And so I'm going to love you anyway. Man, if you've ever seen Les Mis, right? And you know Jean Valjean was broke in or snuck into the bishop's home, and he let him in, pretending, right? He gets in there and he wakes up in the middle of the night and he starts taking the silver because he's a thief. And when the bishop wakes up and sees him, he knocks him out with one of those. He runs away and he gets caught. They bring him back to the bishop and say, Bishop, did this man steal this stuff? Now, this bishop could have said, yeah, he did, and take it and take him and beat him. But you know what he did instead? He said, Jean Valjean, I'm disappointed. I gave you all the silver, and you didn't take the candlestick. And then he puts the candlestick in his bag. That's the kind of love that we give. It's just this ongoing gushing love. This is what God has called us to. We give without expectation. I don't have time to finish all this today. Man, it's just good though, right? Lord bless you. Have a good one, and we'll continue this discussion in the morning.